What is the best way to listen to 78 RPM records, and what's my setup? What's the equipment that I use to make the Shellac Stacks Listening Session videos? Viewers have asked, and in this video, I'm going to respond. That is coming up next. Hello, vinyl community, music lovers, 78ers, shellac stackers, and anyone else who just happened to stumble upon this video. Welcome to Tone and Grooves. My name is Jeff, and this is kind of a response video. I've had a couple of viewers ask the question, so number one, what's the best way to play 78 RPM records? And then, I've been asked a couple of times now, what's your setup, and what do you use to make the Shellac Stacks listening session videos? What's the equipment that you use? So going to answer those two questions in this video. What's the best way to listen to 78 RPM records? Some people obviously say that the best way to listen to vintage records is on vintage equipment. So to listen to 78 RPM records on old-fashioned vintage antique wind-up Victrolas, Edison machines, vintage acoustic record players, phonographs from the teens and 20s. I have one. I have a Columbia Graphanola from like 1914, 1915, something like that. And I use it from time to time. To me, it's fun to do that and to, listen to records that way. But that is not my kind of standard go-to method for listening to records. I think the best way is to use a modern turntable. And that's mainly because, the old wind-up Victrolas, the vintage phonographs, they use a steel needle. It's like a little spike, and there's no balancing the tone arm or anything like that. So it really wears and tears up the records. So if you listen to the same record over and over again on a vintage wind-up machine, you're going to damage that record. It's just the nature of the beast, so to speak, because of that technology from those days. So while it's fun and interesting to kind of use that vintage method, I think personally, my opinion is the best way to listen to 78 RPM records is on a modern day turntable where you have a balanced tone arm and you can use a cartridge and stylus that's specifically designed for 78s. You're going to improve playback. You're going to improve sound quality. You're also going to you can play those records over and over again and not damage them. So that's my preferred method. And I'm going to walk through I've got my setup here. So I'm going to show you what I use as far, for my turntable cartridge and all of that. And then while we're at it, kind of give you a tour of how I record the Shellac Stacks listening sessions. So we're going to dive into that and take a tour of my equipment and system and setup. Okay, so what I use is an Audio-Technica 120. This is an older, version of this. I bought this probably 10, 12 years ago, maybe that long ago. About 10 years ago, maybe 9 or 10. It's an AT-LP 120. This is kind of, their version of the Technics turntable. It looks what is that model, like the 1200 or whatever, that's like the famous DJ table. So it looks very much like it. It's set up the same. You've got, as you see there, you can go forwards and backwards. You've got a pitch control with, different, you can set that to 20% or 10%, and then use your pitch control here to vary the speed, which I should have done, as someone pointed out to me when I played a Monarch record in one of my listening sessions, a Billy Murray record, and I should have adjusted that pitch down, because those records were played not at 78, but at like 69 or something like that RPM. So anyway, that's the Technics, or the Audio-Technica 120. You can get the current version of this turntable for just under $300, $279 I think, or $290. They have another one now that has a Bluetooth capability, which is a little bit more. I think that one was $299, something like that. But for $300, you can get this turntable. It's a great turntable. I really enjoy it. It works well, and this is my everyday turntable, not just for 78s, but for vinyl as well. I use, as far as the cartridge, I use a Grado 78 cartridge. Grado makes two different versions of this. I got the cheaper model. There's a more expensive, I think the 78C is what they call the more expensive model. I think I paid $90 for this cartridge. And then I bought the Ortofon head shell to mount it on. So altogether, I think that was about $30 for the head shell, $90 for the cartridge. So for well under $200, you can get that 78 cartridge. You are going to want that. I mean, yes, you can play 78s on the Audio-Technica right out of the box with the factory installed cartridge and stylus. But you're going to want a 78 specific cartridge and stylus, because 78s have a much wider groove than modern day vinyl records. So if you play it with the cartridge installed out of the box, that needle is going to ride in the bottom of the groove, and you're going to get a lot more noise and whatnot. So you want to get a 78 specific cartridge and stylus that is a wider stylus, so it actually, you're reading the sides of the groove rather than riding in the bottom of the groove. I think the Grado 78C is $150. So it's a difference of about $60. Audio-Technica also makes cartridges and stylus for 78s. So that is an option as well. Some people do not like the Grado. Mine does give a little bit of hum, which is the complaint that people have of the Grado. But I like the sound. I think it's fantastic. It works really well. Replacement styluses, which I've replaced. I replace like once a year. They're $50, I believe. So that's the turntable that I use. There's a number of others that have 78 specific turntables, or the turntables that will play 78s. Denon has one that's about $500. Let's see, Music Hall has one that is about $300. And what else did I see? Technics also has one now. That one was $1,200. So you can go anywhere from $300 up to $1,200 or more, I'm sure, to get a turntable that will play 78s. Pro-Ject also makes the Debut Carbon will play 78s. That's a manual belt driven, so you have to change the belts and whatnot to get to that speed. Whereas the Audio-Technica, the Denon, the Technics, the Music Hall, all of them you just push the buttons or switch the switch to get up to 78. No changing of belts. So there's that. So my setup that I use then for recording the listening sessions is obviously the Audio-Technica turntable. And then I run that via US or inputs, RCA inputs to my Newmark M6 mixer, and have my Behringer Dynavoice microphone that I use. There's that. And then, anyway, run that in to the line input here on channel 1. I set that to the tone controls there to flat. You got your microphone here, which you can adjust. I mean, I have it adjusted so to make my voice sound good, which I'm not using today, so it's not going to sound like it normally does. Anyway, I mean, it's a standard DJ, 4-channel mixer with all the usual accoutrements. But that's what I use, and then run that out with a USB to my Mac. And then I use the Audacity software to actually record the audio. And then I prefer to record that, as you'll see there on the screen, mono. And, which I should have, I guess, shown here. The mixer also has a mono stereo switch. So I use that, set that to mono, and then record that in mono here on the Audacity software. And then let's see if you can see here. I set that to, I'm recording at 192K and 32-bit. And then I mix that down, or when I export that to the AIFF, which is Apple's, file format for audio files, because I'm using then iMovie to actually make the videos. And then, so that gets exported down to 16-bit, which is, CD quality sound. So that's my setup. Works well, sounds great. And, I guess I should mention too, the Audio-Technica has a built-in phono preamp. So you can, flip that to either the line out or the phono out. And then you can use it on any stereo, whether it has a phono input or not, which I have to use because I'm using my old Harman Kardon home theater receiver that does not have a phono input, because I bought that back in 2006 or so, before the vinyl resurgence. So I end up using the built-in phono preamp when I'm listening to music out of my on my stereo. All right, there you have it. There's my answer to, best way to listen to 78 RPM records, and how I put together my Shellac Stacks Listening Sessions, how I record that sound. There's all kinds of little technical details that I suppose I could go into in more detail, when it comes to, because to put that audio, to match up the audio with the video, because I'm recording the video on my iPhone, and then, so I've got a separate audio file and a separate video file, and then, I have to put those together. So there's some great videos on YouTube for how to sync audio. Basic thing is you clap 3 times. So you've got that on your audio file and on your video file. And then you can, when you import your audio file into iMovie, you can easily see those sharp spikes in the sound wave, and you can line those up, and then, turn off the sound on the video portion and use the sound from the audio file, and there you have it. You've synced your audio file with your video file. So that's how that goes. Maybe I should make a more detailed how-to video sometime. If that's something you'd like, let me know. Anyway, so there's the answer to those questions. Best way to listen. Vintage phonographs are super fun. But that's like that's a whole nother world, and once you, like I said, I have one, my wife got it for me as a Father's Day present a few years back. I love it. It's fun. It's cool to use that every now and then and just, enjoy that. But that's a whole nother world. I mean, you've got to learn how to repair those, how to maintain those. And I mean, the whole vintage phonograph thing that's like a whole nother hobby in and of itself. So yeah, anyway, super fun to get into if you want, but I think the modern day turntable is the best way to go, especially considering that, then you're not going to damage your records with that steel needle. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for asking the questions, for posing that. Throw some more questions my way. It's great because it inspires me to make videos and engage with you guys more. So if something comes up, it's on your mind, let me know. Pose the question. I'd love to answer, or do a whole video if that's better. But thank you so much for watching and subscribing. I've picked up a few new subscribers here recently. I really appreciate that. Almost to 1,000, which is cool. And love the interaction. Appreciate the comments. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, stay in the groove.